Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Southern Wedding Professionals. And today I have a wonderful opportunity to get to speak with one of my favorite people on the planet that I've recently met. And I'm a super big fan of. This is Kate Harper from the Harper Event Company. Kate, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. How was that intro? Was that good enough?
That was great.
Okay, I can workshop it. You know, we could have went over a few bullet points, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's gonna be good enough. So tell me what's going on in your world.
Well, it is a wonderful Monday back from 2 events this weekend. So things are starting
Woo!
back up here in Chattanooga. I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
We had a graduation party on Saturday night to celebrate the class of 2020. And then Sunday morning, we had a beautiful brunch wedding. So
Awesome. That's great. I love brunch weddings. They're like my new favorite thing in the industry. That's like my favorite time to eat food. And the type of food that I like, brunch, or the time in which you eat, and all the breakfast food that you can eat. I love brunch weddings. Why is that becoming such a big thing these days?
I think brunch weddings are so great. You get to start early. The weather's a little bit cooler here in Tennessee. It's been so warm recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think it even gives your wedding a more intimate feel too, just having it at a different time of the day. Having your closest family and friends, kind of starting your day with a celebration. I think it sets the tone for the entire day.
I love that. I like going to bed early. I tell people all the time that I'm 38 going on like 78, because I really, really like going to bed early. So for me, this is a great trend, and I hope that it like really continues to grow over time. I'm already seeing it from interviewing people like you. People keep talking about brunch weddings. It kind of makes me wonder, like, what the next fad will be. I have no idea what that would be, but like, if brunch weddings are becoming more desired by potential clients, like, it just kind of makes me wonder. Since that's usually sort of an off time for a venue, I guess a venue could potentially service 2 weddings in one day with that kind of setup, wouldn't you think?
I would definitely think so. If they're able to move one group out and properly clean everything by the time the second group is ready to go, I see no reason why they couldn't.
Right. I was speaking with someone else the other day, and they said they had a brunch wedding that was ending at 3 o'clock, and it just made me think. I was like, oh man, you're turning the room twice over as a venue owner. So I don't know why this hasn't been, or why this feels like such a new thing in the industry, but like it feels like it should have been happening like 30 or plus years ago, you know?
Absolutely. Not only that, my bride and groom were able to spend the day together. They started getting ready around 7 o'clock in the morning. The ceremony was at 11:30. We finished up around 3 o'clock, and they were able to go to downtown Chattanooga with their friends and family and just continue the celebrations, which I think is super fun.
That is so cool. So what was on the menu at the brunch wedding? I gotta ask.
They had biscuits from one of their favorite restaurants in Chattanooga, where they actually went on a date with the groom's parents. So it was very sentimental for them.
Hmm.
And that company has amazing coffee, mimosas, of course. So it was a good time for sure.
That's awesome. Before we get too far along, we got to do the history stuff. We got to get back to the very beginning as to why Kate Harper is sitting in this position right now with such a cool company. Why don't you start us back with sort of like your origin? Like, how did you fall into this business? Like, what was the thing that drove you to be a part of this business?
So it's really funny. I was actually talking with my mom last night about weddings and work, and she was laughing, saying that she would go to my dad all the time when I was little because she was concerned about the number of wedding shows I would watch on TV. I wouldn't watch much of But I think it started maybe with Say Yes to the Dress and shows like that. I think, what was it, My Four Weddings was another one. And so that made me laugh that she shared that concern with me last night. Nothing's changed. I don't watch much TV at all, but when I do, it's definitely TLC. So it's funny because when I think back and think about if I were to ever change my career, what would I do? It's very hard for me to think of anything. And even when I ask some of my friends or see some of my high school friends and let them know what I'm up to now, they just laugh when I tell them that I am an event planner. I don't know where this idea came from, but it's something that apparently I have always wanted to do. So, that kind of goes into, I guess, we get to college and I'm starting to look around at all my friends having internships and jobs. And I'm like, oh, I should probably start working on something more serious over my summers. So I reached out to one company and they were able to take me on as an intern. And essentially I just kept showing up until I was able to come on with a full-time position.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. I love it. So when you got that full-time position, what was your full-time position like? What were you doing at that point in time?
It was so fun. Because of my internship, I had these connections with all the various vendors in Chattanooga. I had already built up relationships that are invaluable to me. I am able to just work closely with these vendors. And so once I started in the office more full-time, it was just so wonderful because I really knew the ins and outs of each weddings versus when I was an intern. I maybe knew some details, but I didn't know all of the little details that really turn into big pieces on the day of. So that was just a relief to continue to work with the same people and to get to work with them more.
Right. So you're working with this company, you're learning the ropes, you're getting all the experience. And I assume this company was in Chattanooga. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So you're working with this company, you're doing your thing, you're earning your stripes, and then one day you get this wild idea to start your own, I guess, right? How did that point come?
So I stayed with that company for a few years and felt like I had grown as much as I could with that company. And I was able to actually go and work for another company who gave me a different experience. So they had two different views on what wedding planning was and offered different services. And so that allowed me to really see two sides and just two different ways of how that all worked. And so I was really thankful to have both of those experiences to really just continue to learn. And I think that's what this industry is all about, the fact that you're always learning. So having the experiences that I had with those two companies, I'm super thankful because that helped me eventually launch my own company. The company I was with previously was extremely supportive in this decision, and I'm so thankful for that.
Right. There's a lot of space in this world that we live in with like weddings and events of all kinds. So there's like, I think it's really important for everybody to be supportive of everybody's decision to move on, and especially if they're starting their own brand, because there really is a market share there that's available for everyone.
Absolutely. The Chattanooga industry, and I'm learning this about other industries as well as I continue to expand my company, but the vendors here in Chattanooga are so supportive, especially during these times of COVID. I've been approached by other wedding planners who are just trying to accommodate everyone that they can, making their couples feel special, making other couples that might feel displaced feel really special as well. And if it weren't for these other companies and the support that we have here, I just don't know what the wedding industry would be like. It's really nice to have those relationships with not only other vendors, but other wedding planners as well.
Right. When you have a community, right, you can lean on each other. And when you can lean on each other, wonderful things can happen. Okay, cool. So when did you officially start your company?
I started my company in November of 2019.
Woo! Wow. What a time to start
What
a
a
company, right?
time.
That is amazing. Well, then you're probably going to have some really unique perspective, as opposed to, I guess, most of the people that I have had a chance to interview so far, about this COVID impact. And it's the elephant in the room. We might as well just go ahead and talk about it so we can get to happier things like sports later or something. But since we've arrived here, how have you felt like the consumer confidence in thinking about the future and thinking about planning a wedding of any kind, of any size, has been impacted by this COVID virus?
It's definitely been interesting working with my couples. I've had some really heartbreaking conversations. It's
Mm-hmm.
not fun telling my couples that their venue has a headcount restriction and that we're going to either have to find a different venue or uninvite guests.
Yeah.
It's not fun for them to hear from family members that they're not comfortable attending their wedding. It's been difficult rebooking certain vendors, and maybe these vendors would be a couple's must-have vendor. And then finding out that the only day that worked for their family, that vendor's already booked. So there have definitely been challenges, but I'm not going to lie, there have been some beautiful things to come out of it. A lot of my weddings have been on the smaller scale, so I'm starting to see micro weddings of about 30 to 50 guests.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because, again, while nobody wants to uninvite anyone from their wedding, from celebrating with them, it's definitely been, just more special. You're truly surrounded by your loved ones. And
Yeah.
again, kind of with this brunch wedding I just had, you're able to be with the ones that love you the most. And you're also able to really spend time with one another versus having those 2 to 3 minute conversations with 200 to 300 people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, every wedding I think I've ever been to, or any sort of event, and you're there for a specific person or cause or whatever that may be, you just can't talk to everybody. You can see people across the room, and you're like, "Hey, how you doing over there?" I'm gonna get to you eventually. Let me just get around all these people that are in the way, and then you never do. When you're in a situation of only 30 or 40 people, I mean, you're really spending quality time, especially for the amount of time that you're in a room, 4 to 5 hours or whatever, from I do in a wedding case all the way until, they let you go for the evening. So you're going to really have some intimate conversations with those people. And because you've had to narrow down your list so much, you really had to decide who are the most important people that you want to be there on your day. So it really does kind of, like, I don't want to call it trimming the fat, because I mean, if you're inviting everybody to a wedding, you want them to be there for a reason or another, but it really kind of makes you think about who are the most important people in your life, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I don't know how people like you are doing what you're doing right now. It's one thing for different vendors to reschedule their events and those types of things, but the intricacies of planning an event like this, if you're a vendor that just gets hired and just shows up and plates food, aside from the food that you had on hand, that's obviously now no good since March, you just don't buy any more food until you need it. Like somebody like you that has to go through all of these finite details, and then scramble to find another venue if something like this happens. I mean, you must be really putting in some hours.
It's definitely consumed more time with my couples. I'm a little thankful. I had one couple have to postpone for a year, and I told them, I said, I know you're really bummed out, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a little excited to have another year with you. So
Oh,
I am excited to be working. I have some really wonderful couples and families too. I really like the planning process to be not only just you and your fiance, but your families, your moms, sisters, anyone, bring them in, and we'll have a good time while doing it. It's a stressful time anyway, So I really admire my brides right now who have handled this so gracefully, dealing with a pandemic, dealing with their normal lives, and then planning a wedding on top of it. So it's definitely had its challenges, but and then again, even though I am putting in more hours with these clients, I've been so thankful for this time with them and just the way they've handled. And I mean, they have handled it again so gracefully. I'm very proud of each of my brides.
Awesome. Let's pivot a little bit from the dark and gloomy and to more things about you. So you have primarily been focused to Chattanooga, but you go other places, I assume?
I do. So I am currently expanding through South Georgia. And then again, because of COVID, I've had a couple of brides change their wedding venue altogether. So I will be going to the beaches in Alabama actually later this year. And so
Oh, great.
I'm getting to work with other wonderful vendors and experience new areas. And so I am looking at expanding further out into the South as well.
That's great. Is it like Gulf Shores, like Alabama? Like, okay, great. Yeah, man, that's a beautiful area.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, the everywhere basically from like Orange Beach there, like all the way down through 308 and Destin and Sandestin and all those little towns along the coastline there. Some of my favorite areas of the country to just take a vacation, honestly.
Not only will this bride get to have a smaller wedding with just her family, she's going to get to do it in an area that's special to her and everybody that will be in attendance and turn it into a vacation all at the same time. I don't think it's much more fun than that.
Yeah, right. It's like, no, I'm not even going on a honeymoon. Like, this is my honeymoon. Like, I'm actually, my honeymoon started like 48 hours ago,
Absolutely.
That's so cool. So you're expanding to Georgia. You're expanding to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and probably then the Panhandles. After that, that seems like a logical expansion point there. Like, what's sort of the things that you're using right now in your business to sort of keep your clients up to date? Do you have use any sort of like modern technology in any of your processes of gathering information for people or anything like that, just to make it easier, with so many clients to handle and everything changing on a whim?
So I pretty much, especially with my COVID brides right now and all the changes we've been going through, I've just sat down and had very casual conversations with them, kind of had our consultation over again. I also use Google Docs to really keep in contact with my brides.
Right.
Work with me, each bride will get a to-do list that is custom to them, and I'm able to go in and assign due dates for certain tasks. So if you wake up in the middle of the night from a wedding nightmare, you're able to go in and be like, when does Kate need my final head count for catering? Mm-hmm. And when are RSVPs due? When do I need to get this quote in? When do I need to finalize these details? It's all laid out for you from start to finish. It's a growing to-do list too. So that's super helpful for me so that I can work with clients that are in other areas as well. We're able to hop on. Zoom has been a huge tool recently. So I'm able to have these face-to-face meetings with clients and sit down and talk through. You can share your screen, you can share details, and so that's been helpful as well.
Do you feel like this modern revolution of like technology and how it's influencing the wedding industry, like very much like a Zoom call we're doing right now? I mean, I hope one day I can bring my camera and my lighting and all that stuff, and I could come to Chattanooga and set up in an Airbnb somewhere and do this in a really cinematic kind of a way. It's kind of my dream with all of this, but with Zoom, it's just so easy. And like, I feel like you really, even more so than a phone call, you really gain the insight as to like, when you say something to someone, how they react to it, like they could kind of hide that in a phone call and you maybe don't get the real true honest reaction out of them. But on Zoom, it's your face is right there for people to see. So
absolutely. And body language is so important for me. I think a lot of wedding planning comes down to psychology. And so it is, I like and I prefer face-to-face meetings. And so when I'm working with clients that are in Nashville or Memphis or California, I'm able to really sit there and see, when I suggested this idea, did you cringe a little bit? You know, are you going to act like you like my idea and let me keep moving in that direction? Or do we need to go back to the start and look at other options? So that's a helpful tool as well. I think the face-to-face aspect of wedding planning is extremely important. It's extremely relational too. And you don't get that same connection through a phone call.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like I've gotten to know more of the clients that I serve outside of the podcast better than I ever have from this type of communicating. And it's like sometimes you think you know somebody, but like when you really get to experience them and see them, this technology today is just absolutely mind-blowing. You did mention something that we didn't get to in the very beginning of the program, and I usually do, so I want to make sure I get to it. Tell us about the wedding planning services that you provide specifically, because, you know, some people specialize in certain things. Maybe they specialize in day of or full service. So tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I am very hands-on with my clients. I have a hard time letting go of things. Obviously, wedding planning is a full-time job. And so for my clients, I don't want it to affect your day-to-day life. You're going to work every day. The last thing you want to do is come home and work on your guest list. So I really try to be available for my clients so that when they're working on specific details that are really stressful, I can help take things off their plate. So I offer 2 packages, partial planning and full service. But while they are packages, I create them custom for each bride, because there might be a bride that really loves the design and decor aspects of wedding planning, but they don't really care about their food as much, or all they want to work on is food and they just want to hand everything else to me. And so I like to kind of let my brides pick and choose the things that they would really like to have a say on. And then the things that they just have no opinion on, I can kind of take it, figure out their personality and just kind of what their family will enjoy, their friends will enjoy, and piece that all together for them. So those are the 2 services I offer. I don't offer day of planning, and that is simply because I don't believe that it exists. So when you're working with me, that's very straightforward, but when you're working with me, I really want to provide as many resources as I can to my brides. And I mean, you don't know what you don't know. So if you plan a wedding and hand it over to me the week before or a month before your wedding, and you've overlooked the layout of the buffet or your food stations and didn't realize that there's a fire exit here or the band has to be set up over here, those are just little details that leave your vendors scrambling to really make sure that your guest experience will be something that they'll remember in a positive way. So that's kind of how I run my company and just how I do wedding planning. So I like to be very hands-on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense in like football terms, for example. That would be like you walking in as a quarterback and somebody handing you the ball and say, all right, go run the team day of. And you're like, but we haven't run over any plays. Like, how am I going to tell people to run a certain route so I can throw the ball to them or hand the ball off to them if I don't even know, how to tell them where to go, and there's like 11 people on the field or 10 other people on the field with you. And you're like, how do we all know what to do at the same time? We've never rehearsed this. So I completely get that. I'm actually, when I meet people that say that they only, or their specialty is like the day of planning, I'm like, man, you really like to just jump right into the, to the fire. And, when all those fires a lot of times can be, prevented in advance. And I understand what you're saying too. It is kind of a misleading term, isn't it? Like to say that I'm basically like a day of planner, but you're really working like for probably weeks before that, right?
Absolutely. That's something that, like, you're comparing it to a football team, running plays. Like, you cannot just come in. I've had clients reach out before, or not clients reach out before, who have said, hey, I have my timeline and everything. Can you just come direct on the day of? And I can come direct, but when I rely on your communication, we end up with issues. And so I really like to be the one, even if you have a wonderful family friend that is going to sing at your ceremony, I like to be in communication with them just to talk about logistics and the behind the scene things that you never think about.
Well, I mean, and also too, if the person or the bride or the groom is coming to you and they're saying, I've handled everything. You know, unless they've been married more than once, I'm going to go ahead and just guess that they've probably not handled everything.
There's always a last minute detail that comes up. Even with my brides that are extremely thorough, there's always something that, hey, I was talking to so-and-so and we thought that this would be a really fun element to bring in, or I'd love to surprise my parents with this, and I'd like to do this. Is it possible to make that happen? I don't like to tell people no. So you really want to make sure that you're working with a good vendor team who can then take your ideas and execute them flawlessly.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. Speaking of football, do you like football?
I love football.
Do you?
I love football.
Tell me who your team is. Who's your team?
Tennessee Vols.
Oh, so you're a college
I'm
gal.
a college football girl. So not big into pro, but I love the game day traditions and the SEC rivalries that we have.
I guess in your neck of the world these days, there hadn't really been much of rivalries for the last few years.
But each year, we're just, crossing our fingers, hoping that this will be our season. I think things are looking up.
Yeah, I don't follow college football as much as most people, I think, in the South do. I kind of follow more pro sports. Being that I'm from Indiana originally, I follow Indiana basketball, but that's even still more pros than college. But, well, best of luck to the old Vols. It's been a while since they've been kind of relevant and on the scene, I feel like. But I don't even know if we're going to have football this year.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully fall 2020 will be our season. I hope that the boys that work so hard all get that opportunity this year. And if not, Tennessee will have plenty of time and be ready for 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I just, with this COVID stuff, I mean, baseball, is already announcing outbreaks within, their baseball teams. And who knows how this is all going to work out. But let's talk a little bit about your favorite vendors to work with, because everybody that I talk to has some sort of vendor that they really like. So tell me whether it's right down from like your one of your favorite bands to call for when they want a band, or a DJ, or a caterer, or anything in between that comes together and makes your event special. And it's like the first people you give a ring to. Who are some of these people that you're working with?
So for me, I am willing to work with any vendor. I definitely have my favorites. I do have a preferred vendor list, but I will work with any vendor. What boils down for me is, what is the process like when working with them? As I am very hands-on, I like to really create an experience for my clients. And I probably overuse the word experience in the whole process, because this should be a fun time in your life. That's my goal. Is I realize not everybody probably enjoys wedding planning as much as I do, but I want to make it fun for even the brides that are only getting married, because that's really what mom wants. So when I'm finding vendors for my brides, again, it comes down to your personalities. Are we going to need to sit with somebody that can hold your hand and talk through these details over and over and over very thoroughly? Or do we need the vendor that is going to have a checklist that we just mark through and accomplish that task for the day?
Right.
So, but my favorite vendors are definitely the ones that want to sit down with you, want to come see the venue, even if it is the most popular venue that they've been to time after time. You know, the vendors that make my brides feel like even though they've done hundreds of weddings at this particular venue, your wedding is unique and your wedding is special. So again, I'm so thankful for the vendors that I do work with because they all help really create this experience for my clients.
I feel that, like, whenever I talk to you, like, you're so motivated and so, like, passionate about it. I feel like a lot of people do this because they are good at it and they like it. But like with you, there's just like this energy, like there's like, I feel like there's like this, I feel like you could probably do this like 28 hours a day if you didn't need to sleep. You know what I mean? Like where does that energy come from? Like, where's that source? Like what's deep inside of you that makes you just want to do this? Like to the level of, you know, that you're exuding here. I mean, it's obvious that this is like more than just a job for you.
I really, really do love wedding planning, as cheesy as that sounds. So it's just, there's something about working so closely. You might have one person that you're talking with at first, and then the next thing you know, mom's attending the weddings. If I can get the groom excited about the wedding, I feel so accomplished. So I really love to sit down with everybody and figure out why this detail really stresses the bride out and why mom really cares about the aisle runner, later to learn out that she wants her daughter to have an aisle runner just like she did. So I love working with different backgrounds, different families, different cultures, and not only that, but marrying these cultures together. And so it's just super fun to sit down with an overwhelmed bride and groom and parents and talk about these things that they just want to avoid because they're like, how do we do this? How do we make it all come together? It truly is a team effort. And so no matter how tired I might be after setup, and you know, sometimes setup is a very quick period of time where we really have to hustle. Sometimes we're working on a setup for a week at a time. And so no matter how tired I am from these weddings, nothing is more rewarding than seeing my brides get into their wedding dresses or seeing the reception space once everything is in place. And then you get to see, one of my favorite things about weddings is you're never going to have the same group of people in the room ever again. So I come to love my bride and groom so dearly. And then on the day of, there is a very unique group of people that are there to celebrate them. And just watching them be under the same roof for one night is just, it's worth everything. So I'm thankful for my families and the relationships that come with wedding planning.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, I talk to a lot of excited people, but you're like really, really excited about planning weddings and talking about it. And I like that. I mean, it feeds me. And I think the people that you're probably around, it feeds them too. Speaking of that, what is your team look like these days? Do you have like other people like on your team that assist you in all of this? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have a wonderful assistant who, when I'm very tired at the reception, I can kind of point in a general direction, say a couple of words, she'll look at me and she'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know where she came from to my life and be able to do that, but she is wonderful. So I love to have her there. And I think it's super important to not only just have a wedding planner, but to really have a wedding team. And so she is with me for all of my weddings. And I have some wonderful other assistants that come and help from time to time. Again, it depends on personality and the experience that you're wanting to create for your guests. When building my team, I really look for people that are service driven. I often compare wedding planning to a doctor and bedside manner. We might do weddings every weekend, but to me, it's super important that each client feels that their wedding is the most special. And by the time we get to those weddings, they truly are the most special for me. I think I've cried at every wedding that I've ever planned. So you come to love these families. And so I can't have assistants that just are not in it. Wedding planning is not a glamorous job. There are definitely glamorous elements, but it is not a glamorous job. So I really need hard workers on my team, and I need people that strive to take care of our guests. So I'm super thankful for my team. And that really varies too on the size of your wedding, how many people you're having, how many venues we're going to. You know, are you getting ready on one side of town, having the ceremony on the other, and then going to a separate space for your reception, or will it be all under one roof? And then too, it depends on what all does your venue do for you. Will they set up the space, or are we going to have to come bring in tables and chairs? So that all kind of helps me decide on who I bring on the day of.
Yeah, having a team of people that, as an owner of a business, having a team of people that share your same core values and beliefs as it pertains to your business and your approach, there's no amount of money that makes up for that sort of passion and that sort of communication and the ability to communicate without even communicating, like you were just saying. That really is something that separates organizations from each other. And I think that when you see teams like that working together in high profile situations like a wedding, that's when you really see the merits of a company. Like how well are they communicating as you're having your day? I mean, which, you know, most people don't stop and take a look at to see, but, you know, being in the business of weddings for as long as I have been, that's one thing that I notice, you know?
Absolutely.
So, so in closing here, I want to start moving towards that. Tell us, tell the podcast, some things about you that are, you know, maybe more awakening to sort of like your personality. Obviously everybody knows how awesome your personality is. They've already seen that, but like, tell us some things that maybe we wouldn't necessarily know about you that would maybe give us a clue as to who you are.
I am someone that I thrive off of the energy of other people. And so I just, as personal relationships, that's something that, you know, with working with families and friends, like I'm so thankful to have my support system behind me. My girlfriends definitely have my back. And so when I'm not working, I love to really spend time with them, and different personalities, they're always inspiring me, helping me continue to be creative. It's definitely easy to get burnt out in this industry. So that is something that I rely on heavily outside of work to keep me going. I definitely love my downtime, I'm not going to lie. And so fueling myself in taking a day off or taking a spa day, it definitely helps me to come back and be able to give my all to my clients. I know I've said this, I love wedding planning so much. So my day-to-day life, I go to work, I plan weddings, I come home, and I'm constantly scrolling through Instagram, Pinterest, reading wedding blogs, just trying to learn and be inspired by other people. So
that's awesome. All right, so I'm going to ask some questions, and you're going to give me one or the other. Let's see. I want to get the total. I want to encapsulate this awesome interview that we've done with just some personal things about you and that are 100% G-rated. So let's talk about cats or dogs. Which one?
Dogs.
Favorite sport?
Football.
Football. I guess it's to be expected in the South. All right, cool. Mountains or the beach?
Mountains.
Why?
I'm so pale I cannot be out in the sun. I love being in the trees and nature and having a little bit of shade from the southern heat.
Right. favorite or last band you listened to on the radio, or that you chose to listen to? Dave Matthews. Have you always been a Dave Matthews Band fan?
Always, and just recently have been streaming them nonstop.
That's awesome. I had a huge Dave Matthews phase, but of course you see the guitars behind me here.
Absolutely.
Like there was there was a day where I really like learned a lot of his songs. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, stories. We'll talk about those another day. The coffee or tea?
Coffee, 100%.
Favorite coffee shop in Chattanooga? Go.
Sleepyhead Coffee.
Sleepyhead Coffee. All right, so all you coffee nerds, you know where to go when you're in Chattanooga, or she'll probably take you there on a meeting if you're trying to find her there. All right. Well, hey, listen, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. You know, we just love giving people like you that are as passionate as you are the platform to just make yourself known, and also let people know and have an insight as to who you are and what you're all about. So I hope that one day we could have you back on this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll be in touch real soon, and you know, happy wedding planning during the COVID times.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.